It's time for Windows Weekly. We do it every year, a best of episode, and I'm told there were a lot of great moments in 2021. So thanks to our editors, our producer, Micah Sargent, and to all of you, our listeners who made suggestions. Here you go. The best of 2021 next on Windows Weekly.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley, episode 757 for Wednesday, December 29th, 2021, the best of the year. Windows Weekly is brought to you by Thanks to Canary. Detect attackers on your network while avoiding irritating false alarms. Get the alerts that matter. For 10% off and a 60-day money-back guarantee, go to canary.tools/twit and enter the code TWIT in the How Did You Hear About Us box. Hello, everybody. Ho, ho, ho. It's me, Father Christmas. Time for a mug of holiday cheer. And some of the best episodes of the year. Thanks to all of you who helped us put this together, and our editors and staff, and Micah Sargent, our producer. This was a very interesting year for Windows Weekly and Microsoft. And Paul and Mary Jo went through quite a few. It was almost a roller coaster, ups and downs. When we started at the beginning of the year, we couldn't stop talking about something brand new from Microsoft, Windows 10X. I am getting more and more excited about Windows 10X. What do we know? What do we know? There's some leaks.
What do we know?
There's some leaks.
Yeah, we know a lot. We knew some academic kinds of things before, but as of the past week, we know a lot more because it leaked.
The actual,
I think
the whole thing leaked?
Paul installed it. Yeah.
Oh,
you
my
installed
God.
it, right? Did you install it in a VM or did you install it natively?
Yeah. I think a VM is the only way you can install it. But I had Raphael build me a better version of it so that I could get widescreen resolutions and stuff like that.
Nice.
So,
or I didn't have it. I mean, he did that, and I used it.
The Verge said their conclusion was this is Microsoft's response to Chrome OS. Is that
right, which we've known all along, pretty much.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. We already knew what it looked like. We had seen screen captures before of what the main start menu looked like, and it looks like a bunch of static icons with your documents listed underneath and a search bar at the top. Very not like traditional Windows 10, but very simplified. Kind of like the launcher, right?
Very similar to the Chrome OS UI. I think that's the big.
It does.
When people are it's simple to say this is the Chrome OS answer or whatever from Microsoft. It is. It is literally a carbon copy in many ways from a UX perspective of Chrome OS.
Interesting. But replacing Chrome with Edge.
Yeah. And there's other limitations too, but we can get to that.
So I'm just curious because one of the things I was hoping is that maybe 10X would be kind of a under the hood fix, but it doesn't sound like it's that at all.
Well, it's hard to say. Sorry, but I mean, it is kind of right. It's clearly much smaller and lighter and faster than normal Windows 10, which I think is the point, especially for the education.
What did they take out? Why is that?
Well, they took out Win32.
That's
obviously there are, which is we should just address this once and never just forget about it forever because it doesn't really matter. But obviously, the thing that we think of as Win32 has to exist to some degree for this thing to boot up and run and do what it does. It's Windows. Right. Windows is Win32. Mm-hmm. But we've talked a lot about the componentization efforts over the years, et cetera, et cetera. So this is the latest evolution of that kind of Core OS principle where it's a minimal version of Windows, much like Chrome OS is a minimal version of Linux with the web browser and with Store app and pure Store app compatibility, like UWP type Store app compatibility.
Is the biggest improvement, I wonder, that they're eliminating legacy code?
Yeah.
Not just Win32, but just kind
also
of that
the biggest
whole
problem when you think about it.
Yes, of course. Yes.
Yeah.
It's the millstone around Windows' neck.
That's right.
Yeah.
Is this...
Paul, Does it say Windows Core OS anywhere like that you saw in the code? Because that was originally when we heard about Windows 10X, which when it was codenamed Santorini and Windows Lite, the kind of the big thing we thought about was it was built on WCOS, Windows Core OS, right? And instead of built on a traditional
it clearly
Windows
is.
Foundation.
Right. But no, that language doesn't appear in the UI. But why would
it's
it?
not
Right?
there.
I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
This is a story that came out in the Financial Times. It said Microsoft approached Pinterest, quote, in recent months about acquiring the company, even though it wasn't for sale. And at first I was like, wait, Pinterest? And the more I dug around on this, I'm like, you know what? I think this story is correct. I think they did do this. And the big question is why?
Why?
Why? So
Microsoft Graph, baby.
yeah, I know. I saw so many people going, it's about the data. I'm like, guys, you know what? We said that about LinkedIn and here we are, right? But I think the reason if this is true, again, we don't know for 100%, but I think Microsoft wants to continue to try to build itself up as a consumer company because they've got the enterprise market, right? Like they're really strong in the enterprise. They've got all the big companies in the enterprise. And then when you look at them in consumer and you're like, they've got gaming. They're really strong in gaming. But after that, yeah, sure. They've got like Office 365 personal and family, and they got a couple other things, but not a lot in consumer. And if you're Microsoft and you're looking at where can we grow our market, you don't grow your market necessarily in the places you're strong. You grow it where you don't exist. And so if they bought Pinterest, I think they believe that would give them a stronger position in the consumer market. This is my theory about why they did this. Do I think it makes sense? No. Do I think it's a good idea? No. It reminds me of the TikTok bid, or like we said it before the show started, like Yahoo back in the day. Right. There are things in there that Microsoft could use.
Expensive as Yahoo. I mean, at least Yahoo was like major.
So Pinterest is valued at $50 billion or $56
that's more
billion.
Than Yahoo. Well, it's a different age too. I mean, this is also 20 years later, but
it is. But there are things
$50 billion.
You can look at
what?
Pinterest. Yeah, I know. You can look at Pinterest and see things Microsoft could use, right? Like a lot of people were saying, it's all about imaging, and they're doing a lot with image processing and computer-assisted imaging and blah, blah, blah. You can make an AI case for this.
Find things like this, kind of stuff.
I know, right? You could build up by scanning in all the images, going beyond what they index with Bing now, and actually do something with all that in terms of using it as fodder for their AI engine. Okay, you can make a lot of cases for this, right?
Not at $50 billion.
A lot of it.
Jeez.
And also,
what? That's the price?
Yeah.
It was some crazy price like that.
Holy cow!
I know.
They have 459 million monthly users.
Yeah.
Which is big, right? And a lot of them are people Microsoft doesn't have, especially women.
Women,
right?
yeah. I mean, there are men like Paul Thurrott
yeah.
who love Pinterest. But,
Exactly.
But I would guess
Also love women, but
yeah. No, I would guess it's. I'm going to forget you said that, Paul. I'm going to guess men who love women and the women who hate
the women
them.
who couldn't care less.
Yeah. I'm going to guess that it's probably 80% female. I mean, it's so. But what else? What other?
This is like double the cost of LinkedIn, though.
It's a lot of money.
This is like almost
It's more than
4 times the
WhatsApp.
cost of Nokia.
It's twice what WhatsApp was. That's a lot of money.
I don't understand how Pinterest is worth that much, but
I'm not going to even try to, place judgment on the value of Pinterest because I don't know how companies are valued. It's like a mystery box how that works. But
oh God, yeah.
But you have to think about where this fits in the Microsoft vision, or is Microsoft just becoming like Computer Associates back in the day, where they're just buying companies, right? And you could. Remember, Computer Associates just started buying companies, and it was like, this is a Computer Associates company, and this is a Computer Associates company.
I feel like this is happening broadly in the industry. I can't give you a specific example, unfortunately, but just today I saw a headline that was, company I've never heard of is acquiring another company I've never heard of. And then I'm like, okay, let me go look and see what this thing is. And I just looked at it, see what the things that and I was like, I have no idea. Companies are just buying companies, strategic alliance, you know, some kind of weird positioning. I don't know.
It's weird, isn't it?
I know.
You know what? It's not for us to understand.
It's
Right.
not.
Right.
I feel like it's like TikTok. Like people are like, yeah, there are places this makes sense, and I'm like,
Well, but in the case of Pinterest, though, were they for sale? Did some other company buy them?
They were not for sale. They're not even trying to like the Financial Times said they're not shopping themselves around. They're not for. They said they are not for sale.
So Microsoft just kind of approached them and said, "Hey,
them. Yeah. Hey, what do you think if we bought you?"
Pinterest, powered by Microsoft 365.
So this is a very unusual code name pick of the week. It's a fake code name. And there's a story behind it. I don't know if I ever told Paul the story or not. I can't remember if I did. So I've always been somebody who chases Microsoft code names, and some people think that's cute, and some people think that's awful.
You know, it's weird.
Cute.
There's always someone who thinks something's cute and someone who thinks something's awful.
I fall on the cute side of that
everything.
debate.
Yeah.
I think it's fun. That's the word I would use.
I think it's fun too, and I think it gives people something to think about, right? And it also gives us as reporters a way to kind of track things as it moves through the pipeline. Well, back when I worked for PC Week, which became eWeek, there were some people at Microsoft who were very angry that I used to unearth their code names all the time. And so as revenge, after a night of drinking, a group of them together created a fake code name, and they planted it to try to get me to write about it, to see if they could trick me. Yeah. So
this is incredible.
They created a code name called BOA, B-O-A, and they wanted me to think it was something object architecture or something like that. And they started putting hints around to see if they could trick me into writing about it. So the reason I'm talking about this code name today is one of the people who was a mastermind of this fake code name recently left Microsoft, and I still like him, even though he tried to trick me. I like him a lot. And
are you going to tell us who it is?
Yes, I'm going to tell you who it is. Don Box, who's a longtime Microsoft employee. He was at Microsoft for 19 years. He's known by many as one of the 4 authors of the SOAP spec.
He's one of 2 people on Earth that understands calm, for one thing.
Yep. Calm is love. He used to always say calm is love.
He's wrong, by the way. But no, he's a genius.
He also was very instrumental in things like the M modeling language. That was a code name I also broke. And that was after he tried to give me the fake code name. Quadrant, the modeling environment, WCF, codenamed Indigo. So Don Box has been there forever. And then he kind of disappeared off our radar. And we found out later, the reason we didn't know what he was doing was he was working secretly on the mixed reality team on HoloLens and on Microsoft Mesh and the Xbox One operating system before any of those things were announced. So he was working on all of those projects, but he couldn't tell us what he was doing, obviously. Can
you tell us? So you never did fall for this, is that right?
No. Somebody warned me. It was funny. I was at a party and somebody came up to me at the party and said, if you hear about anything about BOA, don't write about it. It's fake. It's a fake code name and they're trying to trick you.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love this.
Yeah. And there was a lot of intrigue in those days. We don't have as much fun anymore, I feel like. I don't know why. But Don Box posts on Facebook on April Fool's evening that he's leaving Microsoft and he's going to go to some unnamed gig starting in May 3rd. And so my first thought was, oh man, he's putting this out there to see if anybody bites, and it's an April Fool's joke, right? And so I had to work to verify that he actually had left before I could write about him leaving. So I don't know where he's going. I know he's very enamored with Rust right now. We talked about Rust earlier.
Go figure.
So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where he resurfaces, and hopefully wherever it is, he won't try to put another fake code.
Don Box is the best, and I find it a little odd that he's not saying where he's going. You know,
I know.
Such a good guy.
Boa.
So yeah, my
Boa.
code name is a fake code name, Boa.
I
Boa
love
is
that.
the code name.
You should
What
you
a
should
story.
Photoshop a picture of you with a giant snake and send it to him so he can put it up
I
on his
should.
office
God,
wall.
that would be hilarious.
No, he felt bad about it afterwards. I heard from somebody he was, and he actually asked my forgiveness for.
It's weird because many of the ideas I have over alcohol are excellent. I'm surprised
I
he
know.
Yeah, it's kind of wild.
didn't have that experience.
Anytime I come up with a plan while intoxicated.
Yeah, it's always the best.
Yeah.
I know.
All those
No, he-
purchases I make while intoxicated, all good ideas.
You know what? No matter what he did around that, it doesn't matter because he was always so gracious and helpful and always gave me interviews and tried to help me understand really complicated things like soap and rust and M. So I'm still very.
I've read his
big
book
the
on
John
COM
Box.
about 1 million times. I still have no idea what he's talking about. But he clearly understands it.
Yeah.
So, Mary Jo, you must have felt a little vindicated. You got the scoop.
Actually, this was Brad's scoop from a week and a half ago where
Oh.
he said, I think Microsoft's killing Windows 10X, and Microsoft wouldn't say. But then yesterday, okay, I'm just going to say, we joke that Microsoft's not evil anymore, but yesterday showed they still have a core of evil in them. Right?
What did they
They
do?
Speaking
take
of
a-
evil,
they take a long blog post about 21H1 rolling out, and inside
They
they
buried
bury
They buried
the
it.
10X is actually dead news, like way down and tucked it in there under a subhead. I was like, you know what? You guys still are evil. Good job.
we didn't talk about this, you and I, ahead of this, but I'm really glad that you presented it that way because I want to say this in a non-ranty fashion. We have complained a lot about Microsoft and their inability to communicate effectively. Most of that is hopefully not malicious. It's just negligent. It's just bad communications. But it's hard to look at how they presented this Windows 10X news and not see it as deceptive. And Microsoft is a company that I trust. And I would say to you in general that you, whoever's listening or watching, should trust as well. I assume most of you do. But this is...
I'm scrolling.
This is malicious. Like this is purposefully.
They
purposefully malicious.
also did it right at Google I/O's
They did.
keynote.
At the
right?
kickoff of the keynote. They didn't even do it right at the start of the keynote. They let the keynote get underway a little and then posted this.
So-
I'm like, you guys are geniuses.
Yeah, which
of
by the way, I tweeted like, thanks for doing that.
I saw your
classic.
tweet. I saw your
Like,
tweet.
I have a big problem with this, and this is, I get frustrated with the communications. This was purposeful, and I'm sorry, but this is deceptive. You're lying to your customers.
Following a
And
year-long exploration and engaging in conversations with customers, we realized the technology of Windows 10X could be useful in more ways and serve more customers than we originally imagined. We concluded that the 10X technology shouldn't be confined to a subset of customers. Well, that's an interesting way to slant it. Instead of
This
that
is a
is,
mouthful
right?
of
Yeah.
nonsense. is what this
Instead of
is.
bringing a product called Windows 10X to market in 2021, as we originally intended, I'm sure Mary Jo wanted to correct that to as.
I did.
Yeah. We originally intended. We are, but this is the best part. We are leveraging learnings from our journey thus far. And I think Robert Frost could have written that line. Leveraging learnings from our journey thus far.
Right. Except that would have been in a poem about the snow.
Yeah. Accelerating the integration of key foundational 10X technology. So they're rolling it into the other stuff. But that's kind of what you said, right?
That is what we said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Leveraging learnings.
Leveraging, once you hear leveraging learnings in a sentence, there's a lot of, cover up stuff happening.
You want to hear something?
This is in a post called How to Get the
I
Windows
know.
10 May
I know,
21
I know.
Update.
Please
Yes,
don't
it
rile
is.
me up about this. This is very upsetting. So one of my readers made a comment to the post I wrote about this that I think is pretty much says it all. Because if there's a company on this earth that communicates very purposefully in a deceptive fashion, and I don't like it, it's Apple. And I have a big problem with the way they communicate.
Absolutely.
However,
They're the
that
famous
said-
ones that have graphs with no labels on them.
Right. But
Yeah.
when they announced that they were not going to be able to do their air power, they said, look, this thing didn't meet our expectations. We're sorry. We're not going to do it. They just came out and said it. They actually apologized.
Yeah.
That's the right way to handle this.
That's the new Apple, yeah.
I think so.
Well, I don't know. That was maybe it's an isolated incident. It doesn't really matter, but it's an excellent comparison because,
Yeah.
and by the way, and John Cable, I don't know this guy. he is either a fall guy for everything that's wrong with Microsoft, or he's just the Antichrist. I don't know.
No.
He's always the author. No, he's
really?
always the author of these like crazy. It's
I
like
know.
Because his title is just Program Management, Windows Servicing and Delivery. He's not even like,
Right.
it feels like they came to him and said, Cable, you're on again.
It's
No, but
time
this
for
is
you
all
to do
he
your
posts.
thing.
It's always his job when they're screwing up. Like when some feature update is breaking Kindles or doing whatever it's doing. It's always him explaining everything's fine. The process works. You know, like they always like for some reason it's always him when it's bad news. And it
So,
and
Paul, I'm going
Yes.
to get you even more wound up than you already are about this. Ready?
Okay.
So when they first posted this,
Mhm.
okay, it was bad enough they hid the 10X news in this blog post, blah, blah, blah. Then they went back in and added a sentence that wasn't in
What?
the original
Afterwards?
post.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Awesome.
Here's the sentence.
Okay.
This shift in thinking about 10X is an incredible example of the company's value of a growth mindset at work. And
It's
it
incredible, isn't it?
exemplifies our customer first focus. I'm like, guys, it was bad already. Now you just made it like 5 million times worse by adding that sentence.
Here's the okay. So that is another mouthful of nonsense. I will say this, and by the way, you know, no one has ever asked, but my God, could we help with the word, like the way to communicate this kind of stuff? I'll tell you what this really is: not the blog post, but the actual decision to kill
Yeah.
Windows 10X. It's
Right.
good decision making. It's the right decision.
Great decision making. Yes.
It's doing it before you release it, unlike
Yep.
all the other stuff they released and then cancel
Agreed.
later, is the right choice. What they
It is.
should have done is had Panos Panay pen a letter to customers saying, this is what we're doing. It's the right choice for you.
Right.
It's the right choice for us.
Yep.
And we would have applauded him for that. And this
Yeah.
was a missed opportunity to demonstrate that there's a like an adult in charge of Windows,
Yeah.
making adult decisions and doing the right thing for
Yeah.
the platform and for the community. But that's not what they did. You know, they deceptively buried this news
I know.
in a post
I know.
about a completely different topic. And
Yeah.
it
was bad. It was a bad
Yeah,
choice.
it was. All right, we got to get past
Part
it.
of so yeah.
Just-
I also will say, as we talked about a couple of times on the show, I think part of the reason they did this way was because there's been an edict from on high at Microsoft. I don't know how high up, but they're not allowed to say they're killing products anymore.
Oh,
is what we've
interesting.
heard, right? Like they're not
Why?
allowed to use that terminology.
But they've
because
never even released this
negative,
product. It's
right?
okay to say
Right.
they've talked about it. We know it exists.
Right. You could
No,
they
it
could have
doesn't.
worded it the way you just said and not use the dead word. They could have done that.
Yes.
But I think instead they were like, you know what? Google I/O is going on. Press are distracted. Here's our thing about rolling out 21H1. And the press never reads these blog posts. They're just like, oh, we already got our post written. 21H1 is rolling out. Let's hit the publish button. Right. So they're like, maybe they'll just gloss over this. And then later we can say, well, we did say 10X was gone. Right. And here it is. It's like buried in this blog post. Right. Yeah.
There's a perfect example of how the best stuffs can go from Windows 10X, it's exciting, it's new, what is it? And to it's not happening. It's kind of been the story of the year. We're going to take a look at Windows 11 in just a second. Yes, that happened this year as well. But first, a word from our sponsor. We thank the folks at Thinkst, makers of the Canary, for supporting our holiday show this year. We love Thinkst. They've been with us for a long, long time. If there's anything we've learned from this crazy 2021, it's that companies absolutely have to pay attention to security. And as we always say, security is a matter of layers. And one of the most important layers should be this little box right here. This is called the Thinkst Canary. And you might say, well, that doesn't look like a security device. Oh, but it is, my friend. This little, really Internet of Things appliance, it's just connected to power and our network, poses as a huge variety of devices, whether it's a Windows server, a Windows computer, a Linux box, or in this case, it's a My Network Attached Storage. It looks exactly like that to anybody wandering around in your system. But when they attempt to log in or hit it or open the file, bing, 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 I get an alert that tells me I've been breached. That's the kind of thing you want. This is what they call a honeypot. You've heard the phrase. Maybe you even thought about creating your own honeypots. Well, there's already one for you, the Thinkst Canary. Easy to use, easy to configure. One of the things we know is it takes, on average, a company 91 days to realize it's been breached. That's way too long. It can even take years in some very famous cases. If your company has a Things Canary, you'll know the minute attackers start probing your system. Attackers are sneaky. Once they get into the network, they don't necessarily hit you with ransomware or announce their presence. They like to wander around like cockroaches in the background, exfiltrating data, probing weaknesses, making sure that you're not backing up anywhere they can't get to, that kind of thing. When attackers, for instance, browse Active Directory for file servers and explore file shares, they're going to be looking for documents. They're going to try default passwords against every network device they can see, every web service. They'll even scan for open services across the network. The Things Canary will see that activity and let you know. They won't flood you with false alarms. They'll give you actionable alerts in exactly the way you want it. Email, text message, on your console through Slack. They support webhooks. You choose. You get your own console. You can use syslog. They even have an API, so you can write your own, roll your own. But no matter what, you will get notified. The Canaries are designed by a company that has spent more than a decade teaching governments, companies, how to attack networks. They know what hackers are looking for. They know how hackers work, and they designed the Canary to help protect your network. You can deploy a few Canaries throughout your network. You can make them look identical to anything. When this looks like my Synology NAS, it has a MAC address from Synology, so that's indistinguishable from the real thing. The log on screen is exactly DSM-7. It looks exactly like Synology. In fact, by the way, that's good because when they attempt to log in, I'm going to get some information about the attacker from the email address they use, the password they're going to try. That's very valuable. You can also generate Canary tokens with your Canaries. Those are files, PDFs, documents, Excel spreadsheets, whatever you want, that, again, look valuable. The minute they try to open them, boom, you get alerted. It's really a great system. You can name them in ways that get the hacker's attention. I like to, put files on my drive that say things like payroll information. I'm not too obvious. I don't say every employee's social security number, but payroll information kind of implies that information might be in there, that kind of thing. And when attackers investigate further, you're going to get notified instantly. So you get the Canary, you get the Canary tokens, you get the console, you get year-long support, upgrades, maintenance. And it's a great deal. I'll give you an example. Some, small businesses might have a handful of Canaries. Some big banks, casinos, places like that, they might have hundreds of them spread throughout the network. If you go to canary.tools/twit, canary.tools/twit, $7,500 a year gets you 5 Canaries. Again, pricing will vary depending on how many you're going to get. You also get your console, your upgrades, your support, your maintenance. And if you would use the word twit in the How Did You Hear About Us box, you'll also get 10% off the price forever. That's a pretty enticing offer, just like the Canary. It's enticing. Unlike the Canary, from a hacker point of view, as a Canary customer, you get a full 2-month money-back guarantee for a full refund. Canary.tools/twit. Enter the code TWIT, 10% off forever in the How Did You Hear About Us box. We thank them so much for supporting us all year long, but in particular for supporting our holiday episode of Windows Weekly. Thank you, Canary. Thank you for great work. Really a fantastic product. So this was the year Microsoft surprised everybody by announcing Windows 11. It goes to 11. Here's Paul Thurrott's very first look. So one thing that we now know it is Windows 11, right?
Okay, but maybe that's a red herring too, right? I mean, it does say Windows 11 everywhere. Yes.
Okay.
It does.
Setup says Windows 11. The EULA says Windows 11.
All right.
Winverse says Windows 11.
I think we've seen enough teases that we know it's Windows 11. So that's flattened.
Yeah.
It seems. But who knows?
Is it just a UI shift? Is it just that?
There's a couple of those tiny things, aren't there? Like minor.
Not that I have experienced directly. I mean, from what I can tell, and I haven't dived into it in any technical way, like maybe Raphael or Walking Cat might do, but it is, it's a UI refresh for sure. It's Windows 10 for sure too, right? And that's a goofy thing to say. It's like Windows XP was Windows 2000, right? It's like the next version of Windows 2000. Windows 7 was Windows Vista, really. I mean, you kind of lose track of what's what here, but it's so clearly Windows 10. Like, it's Windows 10. I mean, and of course it is, right? It's not like I said this. I don't remember where I said or wrote this, maybe on Twitter. It's not like someone fired up Visual Studio, start new project, x64, ARM64, native, I'll call it Windows 11, and started writing code. I mean, it's a continuation of the thing we had before.
As it almost always
is. Of course. Right? I mean, it has to be. It has to be, right? It has to be.
I think so many people were all getting overly hyped and expecting more. Even when we kept saying it's going to be basically lipstick on a pig, right? Like, people are like, no, you guys are underplaying it, right? Like, it's going to be this massive change underneath. Everything's going to be different.
Yeah. I mean,
I was hoping for that, but you convinced me last week that was not to be hoped for.
Part of the agreement we made with Microsoft is we would overhype it and then underhype it, and then keep people guessing. It's just
it's good we're on their payroll. It's very good.
It's the cabal that we are part of.
They're joking.
We are obviously.
They're joking. No, you say obviously.
I know.
At least one person heard you say that.
So 10 years from now, someone's going to be, I'm sure I heard you say in a podcast.
They're on the payroll. They admitted it. Just like we've been saying for a long time, this is Windows 10 was the last version of Windows. Big scoop from Mary Jo Foley. Nobody said that. Jerry said it.
Jerry
said it. Jerry Nixon.
It was what they should do?
A guy named Jerry is like the conclusion of a Stephen Wright joke.
Jerry said it.
It's I found out that the guy who built the pyramids was a guy named Jerry.
No, they're going to get Jerry Nixon. Jerry Nixon will start off the launch next week. He'll come out on the stage and he'll be like, guys, I'm sorry.
No, he should come out and say, guys, Windows 11 is going to be the last version of Windows.
They should. It would be funny.
That's what he should say.
Well, and by the way, I looked at his quote, and he may have meant the latest. Sometimes people, that is one use of the word last. The latest version, not the last ever.
Yeah. Oh, interesting.
He wasn't that explicit. He didn't say, there's never going to be another version of Windows. He simply said, the last version of Windows, Windows 10.
What was the context for this comment, by the way? When did this come out?
It was some Ignite session he was speaking in.
So this was just a guy speaking off the cuff in front of people.
Right.
And he may well have meant the latest, which is a completely common usage of the word last.
I will say this, 640K is enough RAM for everybody. I don't know why we argue about that.
It was a great point Mary Jo made, and it's interesting because it swept the world. Yeah. People said, "Oh, we all thought it was going to be the last," but Microsoft never said that. Just some guy named Jerry.
No, and then on Twitter, on Twitter, a few people chimed in who worked at Microsoft during the time, and they said, "Okay, maybe we never said it on the record officially, but inside Microsoft, that was how we treated it, the last version of Windows."
Sure.
So they acted like that's how it was, right?
I think, well, of course, but you got to remember that. I call them regimes. I wish there was a better word for this, but I mean, at the time, it was Terry Myerson and his crew calling the shots for Windows, and to them, maybe they thought that was true. And by the way, one of the things
they also thought they'd never leave Microsoft. So there you go.
Well, when Terry was kind of forced out of the company, one of the things I kind of talked about at that time was, Terry was given a terrible job, right, by Satya Nadella. He said, you can run Windows, but you got to make it work within this whole other thing we're doing around cloud and servicing and all this stuff. And, it just was never going to work properly. I mean, it was just it was a tough job. So, the subsequent, regardless of whether Terry's there or whoever's there now, we have been dealing with Windows 10 for a long time, 6 years this next month, right? That is almost unprecedented. I say almost because Windows XP was in market from 2001 till actually it is unprecedented. It wasn't as long. Windows XP was around for so long it felt like a lifetime, but actually Windows Vista, was it 2000? I think it was the end of 2005. No, 2006 it must have been. So 5 years. So Windows 10 has actually been in market longer than Windows XP was. And like Windows XP, it was updated over time, right? We had SP2, we had Tablet PC Edition, at least 2 versions of that. We had at least 2 versions of Windows Media Center Edition. I mean, there was still churn, but we stuck with, it was Windows XP.
Yep. I think during the event, my prediction is they're not even going to address this. Is it the last version of Windows? They're just
that was
They should address it. They should do it. They should do it in a fun way.
They should be funny, but I doubt they will be funny.
It's the next version of Windows.
They should bring up a clip of Jerry and be like, "Remember this guy? Yeah, we fired him this morning." And
Jerry's still there.
Just kidding, and then they
Jerry's still there,
Jerry's
as far as
still
we
there.
know,
Yeah.
in Denver.
No, of course
Well, he is. I looked at his
I'm just
Twitter
saying as a
yesterday,
joke,
just to see if he had anything to say. He didn't. So, tell it. Come on. Now, really, all we care about is tell us what is. It's a new look. Is it nice? Somebody said it looks a little like a Mac.
To me,
Or Chrome.
it looks like Chrome OS is what it looks like, right?
That's what I think.
And maybe more to the point, it looks like Windows 10X, right? This is the Windows 10X UI brought over to big Windows, for lack of a better term. Of course, because it is big Windows, it's better than Windows 10X was. It also looks better just running on real hardware. Like, Windows 10X, we were running in a virtual machine, and they look kind of flat and plain. If you think back to like the Aero days when it was like Aero Basic was really terrible looking and flat, and then they had Aero Glass, and it was kind of awesome. I mean, this is kind of like that. This is like the glass version. It's got some translucency going on, and is better looking. This is going to be controversial for people. There's no doubt about it. There are people who are going to complain about the simplicity of it, the kind of dumbing down of the UI. There are going to be people who claim or complain about muscle memory issues where all Windows versions since Windows 95 have had a start button over in the lower left corner, and then the icons kind of come out from there. Now it's centered, so as you run and close apps, the positions are going to change a little bit.
But you can move it over to the left.
You can move it over to the left. That's true. But you move all of it. Like I'd actually like to see the start button stay over on the left and have the icons be in the middle. But let me just make one point about the centered thing. People have theorized about widescreen displays and like why might they do this, et cetera, et cetera. This is the way the Mac has worked since 2001, right? When Apple introduced the dock with Mac OS 10, the first version,
in the middle.
It was in the middle. It's been there ever since. And hundreds of millions of people use that system every single day, and it seems to work okay. So I just throw that out there. I know people are freaking, but like someone, Mary Jo, I think said, yes, you can. There is an option in there if you want it over on the side.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so this is just modern. It's more modern. It's modern design, which
it is literally whether you're talking about setting it up or using it. It is Windows 10.
So it's that just begs the question, because Mary Jo was kind of thinking maybe it'd be more of a consumer targeted Windows versus this, and that Windows 10 would continue as a business. But it sounds like maybe this is just the next version of Windows.
Well, no. I don't think that changes anything that she said, to be honest. The way that this thing will be delivered or not delivered, we still don't know. And it's very possible. By the way, there's a registry. There's some registry entries you can screw around with that will just make it go back to Windows 10. So that tells me there's a switch that you can enable or disable where you have new UI, old UI. And her idea that businesses will be able to move forward for some amount of time on Windows 10, I think is still very valid.
Yes, I have many thoughts on this. First off, the name. Let's talk about the name.
Yeah.
So all during beta tests, this thing was codenamed or named Cloud PC, which I thought was a great name.
Yep.
And then when they announced this service today, they're like, so we have Windows 365, which is the virtualization service built on top of Azure Virtual Desktop, and it lights up your Cloud PC experience. I'm like, wait, what does that mean? Like, what's the Cloud PC part, right? I get the service part, but what's the Cloud PC part? And so then Melissa Grant, who's a product manager on Microsoft 365, explained to me, and she said, so you know how you have a PC on your desk? I'm like, yep. So what if you had one in the cloud PC? So it's like the back end, and like if you think, where is all my data and my settings and all these things that we're putting in the cloud being stored? It's this virtual Cloud PC thing. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I think you should have just called the whole thing Cloud PC.
Yeah.
And why did we have to throw Windows 365 in here? I get why, right? Because they have Office 365, Microsoft 365, Dynamics 365. So they want to show this as Windows being virtualized. But I think it kind of adds a layer of complexity in terms of the branding that doesn't really need to be there.
So like they're going to be using both, is what you're saying. Cloud
Yes.
PC is.
Yep.
I
Go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I kind of enjoy how they reused Cloud PC even after killing it as the name, you know.
I know.
And I think for the businesses that this targets, what they're trying to differentiate is you could still manage your traditional on-prem or remote physical PCs alongside your cloud PCs in the same management, Microsoft endpoint, whatever it's called.
Manager. Yeah.
Manager. Yeah. So okay.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Though. I suppose this precludes them from ever offering any other client operating system in the cloud directly to businesses like, I guess, Chrome
Linux.
or what do you call it? Linux maybe. But if it's going to be Windows only, and it is, I mean, it's not a horrible name, I guess.
No.
So Microsoft, you're saying that could be something that Microsoft could have done, is offer Linux in the cloud?
Yeah, I mean, to what end, right? I mean, obviously, developers are using Linux VMs and businesses are using Linux and Azure as well, but end users using Linux and then end users using Linux remotely is way off the scale,
right?
I think from a niche perspective.
Right.
So
Right.
it's not really necessary. So you want to call the thing Windows something? I guess Windows 365 makes some sense.
Why not just
So-
call it Teams? I'm kidding.
I know, right? Call everything Teams. Why not?
So Mary Jo, I have one major question I'm hoping you can answer for me.
Okay, I'll try.
And I have some suspicions, or I guess some educated guesses based on what I've seen from their materials and then from screenshots. For this thing to be truly useful, I think they need to offer end users, virtualized apps, not entire desktops. Both is fine, right? I mean, some people will need the entire desktop. Do you know whether that's a feature of this service right now? In other words, from...
Yeah.
Go ahead, yeah.
So I asked about this because I'm like, okay, so Windows 365 lets you basically stream Windows from the cloud, right? It synchronizes your settings, your tools, and the apps that you have running on Windows. Like this is interesting. Developers don't need to do anything to their apps. If you have an app running on your desktop, like it just works. Like if somebody already has brought such and such an app to Windows, you have to only use Windows 10 or 11 once 11's available. But then, when you read into the fine print, it's not just this. I should be very clear. This is for businesses, right? Like the requirements for Windows 365 are you have to have Windows VDA E3, EMS, which is Endpoint Management Service E3, or Microsoft 365 F3, E3, F5, right? So this isn't for just like you or me saying, hey, I want to virtualize my desktop and use it on my home PC. It's not for us.
Okay,
Right.
That's
Not
okay.
yet.
That's the
I mean,
clarity that I did not get. So this is not the opportunity for folks to be able to run things that they can't run on their Mac or other system on.
But don't you sort of feel like it is going to head that direction?
I kind of feel like it will head in that direction. I do. In fact, if you're a business user and you have the rights to use Windows 365 through your organization, you can run it on an iPad at home as long as your company lets you do that, right? I mean, you can run it on a consumer device. You just can't be a consumer and subscribe to it yet.
Someone in the chat's pointing out a really important point. Given that Mary Jo hates consumers, she must have encouraged Microsoft to not give this to consumers.
I'm sorry I typed that in the chat.
Yeah. I know.
No, so well, that's okay. So one thing they didn't reveal was the price, right? And Mary Jo and I kind of talked about this offline, but the fact that this is very much relegated to bigger enterprises that are spending lots of money with Microsoft suggests that the price they will eventually advertise will be higher than people will like, and there'll be a lot of complaining. But you need to understand those guys all get volume licensing, and the actual cost to them will probably be significantly less than whatever the list price is that they finally come up with.
Exactly. Right.
That said, what do you think? Where do you think that's going to land?
I don't even know. I don't know. They told us August 2nd is when this becomes generally available. And they said we'll release the pricing right around then. The one thing they did release today were like the cloud PC sizes. So if I did a post about this and I put their screen capture for this. So there's all different like classes of what you would get if you subscribe at different price points. So we can see what the price points are going to be. Like there's the 1 CPU, 2 CPU, different amounts of storage and RAM, right? And along their categories, they say, okay, if you're a frontline worker, you can get away with the 1 CPU, 2 gig, 64 gig configuration of this, right? So that'll be a fairly low price. But then when you get up to being like software developer, engineers, content creators, that kind of thing, they're recommending you go with the 8 CPU, 32 gig, 512.
8 CPU? Really?
Yeah.
8 CPU? That's a fairly beefy. I mean, like
Yeah.
8 core or
Maybe
8
core?
virtual CPUs, right?
Oh, interesting.
8 virtual. So like
Wow.
this is how they're thinking about it. They're thinking about, you know how with gaming, this is my understanding and I may be wrong, but like with Xbox, the way they run the game streaming stuff is they have Xboxes in the cloud, right? And you're actually running in Xbox in Microsoft's data centers. I think this is going to be like that, right? They're going to have machines there running Windows with your apps, and this is why there are all these different sizes and configurations, right? Because they're saying, okay, if you're this kind of a user, you're going to want a lot more horsepower than if you're this kind of user.
In the past, I feel like Surface has tried to innovate new form factors just to do it. You know, that's how they saw their mission for some reason. They've never actually innovated a form factor in their lives, but they seem to think this is the biggest thing in the world. And I think when you think like that, you're not thinking through customer problems. You're thinking through what I can do next. You know, like what does my ego want me to do? You know, and Surface Surface Book is that product, whereas Surface Laptop Studio, is more
Surface
like what
Studio.
customers want and need. It actually pays attention to what matters to people that will buy it, not to what matters to the people who made it. You know,
Agree.
And that's you can apply that thinking to everything that they announced today, from Surface Duo 2 to the Surface Pro 8, et cetera, et cetera. Everything they announced. It's like we're going to stop shooting for the sky here and be iterative in a way that makes sense for actual customers. And I think it's going to make these products more popular.
Me too.
Now, I have
course.
to point out on this, the dearth of connectors is kind of scary. There's 2 Thunderbolt
right?
4 on the left.
Right.
They still have this stupid Windows dong connector on it.
I talked to them about that yesterday. I'm like, so really, you're still using the Surface Connect thing like as your power
Well, they have, by the way,
source?
one of them, if you get a Surface Laptop Studio with a GPU, a dedicated GPU, I believe the power supply is 104 watts.
Wow.
It's a pretty high watt, whatever the number. I believe it's 104. It's a big number.
So they need
apparently they're able to deliver more juice over that thing.
You can go to 100
believe
watts on Thunderbolt. So
Okay.
4 more watts. Okay.
I could do. I'm pulling that number off the top of my head, so I could be a little bit off. But I believe it's something big, and it's not 45, 65. Like it's a big number.
Wow.
So that's good.
Well, you know, the thing they always come back to is, well, our enterprise customers say they don't want us to be changing out this part, and they want us to stay consistent with this. And
Well, that makes sense if you've got an investment in
That's
these.
fine, but why can't you do
I know.
both? I mean, that's always been
So
our
it
I
won't
know.
charge in the Type C, the Thunderbolt 4?
Oh, I don't know
connectors?
about that.
bet
It should.
will.
Why wouldn't it?
It should,
I think
yeah.
it would.
yeah, it should. I would think.
Yeah, it's Thunderbolt 5. That's the spec, right? It should do whatever the spec does.
Tops out at 32 gigs of RAM. That's a little light for a pro workstation style machine. 2 terabyte SSD.
So I'll
But,
tell you the thing. There were 2 things I didn't like about the Surface Studio laptop. One is if you I couldn't master the hinge at all. The hinge, maybe it's just that I'm inept at this kind of stuff, but I was trying to lift it in different ways, and I was putting my fingernails behind the thing, trying to pull it forward, and the woman's like, no, just grab it like this with the 4-finger grab and lift it up. I'm like, oh, good, okay, there's a way, you know, and it's a woven hinge. It's cloth. It's not Alcantara.
What?
It's
cloth?
It's like this. It feels like some special, maybe it's plastic, but it felt like
Well, I
cloth.
mean, obviously it has to be metal inside.
Yeah.
But there is
no, it felt very durable. It didn't feel like it was going to rip or that you could pull it off or anything. But then I was like trying it in different modes. So they have like the stage mode and they have a creator's mode, right? And then there's this weird mode you can put it in where it's not quite all the way up or down. And it was like, I thought people would use it to write on it that way or draw on.
No,
and when I tried it, I'm like, wait, it's very bouncy. I'm like, the keyboard was bouncing up and down, right? And I'm
there's
like,
a name for it, Paul, right?
It's like stage mode
stage mode. No, stage mode is the one where it's facing away from you and you can do a presentation, right?
Okay.
It's the, you just enjoy content on it. It's for watching a movie.
Yeah, because you wouldn't
see that one with the pen there, like right before you get to that
mode,
flat level.
This one.
Yes.
So,
right. So if you don't have it quite, if you don't have it
up
all
a little
flat,
bit, not completely flat. Okay.
Right. So I put it that way, and then it was bouncing, like when I was.
Well, you wouldn't want that if you're penning.
No, so then the person who was demoing it to me puts her arm underneath like a muff, kind of, and she goes, "Yeah, if you could do this, you could put your arm under it to brace it." I'm like,
no, no.
And I go, and then I said to her, "Is this muff mode? Like
muff
what?
Mode.
Like what is that?"
Oh my god!
I really like the Duo 2. I can't even believe I'm saying that.
Me too. Me too. And you said last week, don't buy it, Leo. You always want the third iteration.
I know.
But they got the cameras right this time, it looks like.
Yep. It looks
it's
like.
It's got NFC. It's got wireless
People
charging.
never learn. My God.
I know.
Who cares what it has? It's a Microsoft Android device. Come on.
I know. But I really. So you know what it was? It was so much snappier than the first iteration. The first iteration, you'd do something and you'd be like, I wonder if that worked. Let's see. Let's see if it does something right.
This time
how many versions of
888
Android are they going to give you on this thing? What did they commit to for support?
Android 11. It's shipping with Android.
I know,
11.
but what did they commit to for up? Because Android 12 is coming out a week later. So
I know.
What,
so yeah,
the last one never got a
say.
single upgrade.
I know.
An Android version upgrade.
It does have NFC. Yes, it does. For people asking, I don't know. Like I went in there so skeptical, and I went up to the table, and the guy goes, "So you were one of the people who tested Duo 1, right?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "What do you want out of Duo 2?" I said, "I want it to be good."
Yeah, that's a kind of starting point. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. But then they started demoing it, and I held it, and I'm like, you know what? I kind of
So it was snappy, and the software seemed to work. That was the problem before, was the software.
The software was terrible. It was terrible.
I love the third little screen on the hinge. That was another thing people complained about, is not being able to, when it's closed on the desk, not knowing what your notifications were.
Yeah, I know.
Mary Jo, I don't know if you remember. Okay. Just, sorry, real quick. When we were doing Longhorn, Microsoft tested a design with Asus of a laptop that had a little screen on the outside for this exact same reason. So without opening the lid, you could see if you could have notifications, if you had new email, whatever it was, date, time,
I love
weather.
that feature. What did they call that thing? I can't remember now, but
it was something. I don't remember either, actually. So maybe someone will remember this. I don't remember.
No.
That's so Leo said something about Glance. I thought, that might have been part of the name.
I think Glance is on the Duo 2. That's what they call this thing, the Glance.
Yeah, but it might have been what they called it in Longhorn too, and then of course it never happened. But I don't remember. But it was.
I know.
It was the same idea.
I do remember that. Yeah, it's a great idea.
I'm so tempted by this thing, and you touched it, you used it, and you think it felt pretty good, huh?
Yeah, he hands it to me and he goes, "Here, play a game on it." I'm like, "No,
the wrong person. Use Notepad on it, Mary Jo.
It doesn't have Notepad. Like somebody needs to do this.
Well,
an Android version.
There's going to be a note-taking app of some kind. There's actually a really good one called Obsidian you can use. It's works on Android.
OneNote.
Yeah.
I don't like OneNote.
Okay. Look, guys,
it's overkill.
However nice the
for
device
me.
is, the problem is going to be the software.
I know.
I just
that's what
I don't know how you
time.
trust Microsoft with Android. There's no
So I just pre-ordered
precedent
it.
for that.
Did you?
I did. I hit the button. Yes, I did. I know. I'm like, oh.
Well,
gosh.
2 months from now, when we're talking about how you both return this, I
can return it.
Just predicting this conversation.
That's what we did last time. I bought it.
I know.
$1,500, same price. Returned it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so
and you can
tempting.
return it. And so I asked to review it, and they didn't make any commitment. So I'm like, I better buy one because they didn't say I could review it. I think they didn't like me.
Maybe they sell out, Mary Jo. You might not be able
Did
to
you get the black or did you get the?
I got a Glacier. I went for the low end because I want to see how it works. 8 gigs of RAM, 128 gigs of SSD.
They're already out of stock on the 512 and the
They
128.
are on the black. I
On the
know.
black.
Black is out of stock. I bought a tangerine bumper. So did you guys see the pen thing you can do? There's like a pen case and the pen can stick to it.
I loved that. I thought that was really sweet.
Yeah.
I don't know
and
you
the
two
bump.
anymore.
Okay,
I don't
there's
know
a
what's
camera
happening
bump.
here.
There's a camera bump.
Everything has a
Did I
camera
like
bump.
kitty case
That's
or
life.
what
Camera.
comes next?
It didn't seem that bad.
No,
it didn't
it's
seem
just
that bad.
you put it on the other side.
No, but then I said to the guy who was demoing the photos thing to me, I'm like, so wait a minute. You still have to hold the phone open to take a photo if you want to use those 3 special lenses, right? You can't do it with it shut. He's like, yeah, but you know what you can do? And he's like holding it open with 2 hands like a book, like facing him. And I'm like, it's kind of like taking a picture with an iPad.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I suppose that would allow you to use it like a tripod of sorts. So you could stand it up.
No, he had ideas.
Independently.
Yep, he showed that, like you could stand it up like a tripod. And he also said, like, you can also hold it way down low and like take an angle up and get a really cool shot. I'm like, okay, there are little weird things you can do with it, but I don't know.
Why did you get the bumper? Did you feel like you needed the bumper?
Yeah, I always drop my phone. I drop my phone constantly.
Yeah, it's an expensive phone to drop.
I'm
That's
scared
for
to death
sure.
of that.
$1,500 as your starting price. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which that
Did
was
you get the
surprised about
pen?
the price. I don't need a pen.
I don't need a pen.
I know. We should talk about the pen. Well, we're going to talk about the pen, right? Because that was like the star of this event. And
How
the
did we
reason,
go from the most incredible laptop ever invented to a stupid folding device and a pen? What is
know.
happening? Is
The
there no
pen-
structure to this?
No, wait. Did you guys see? No, my genius idea that I gave them for free at the event yesterday was I said, so you know what you guys need to do is you need to do a commercial comparing how you charge your pen in these nice ways under the keyboard, and it's very compact and cool, to how Apple charges theirs. And you compare and contrast and make fun of them. Come on, this is the commercial.
They actually do it exactly the same way.
Yeah, you put it on top of the tablet.
No, what's the one where Apple Pen sticks into
That's
something and you have
old.
to
They
have
don't
it
do that
upside down?
anymore. Yeah.
Well, unless
should
you buy
still
the base
use that.
iPad. I mean,
Oh, yeah. I guess Pen 1, you still take the top off and you connect it to a
Right?
Lightning. Yeah. You're right. No, you're right.
yeah, they use magnets now too for the new one.
Yeah. The magnet is very, very strong. I can tell you that. Like when you use the magnet on the Duo or any device now, it really sticks to the device. There's no way that falls off anymore.
What I find kind of funny is there was kind of a dig at one point where they were talking about other companies that made fun of the, 2-in-1 device, and then they didn't see any need for a pen. And then they came out with one and they called it a pencil, and it's like, fair. But now you have a carpenter's pencil that you call a pen. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess we all have different names for things, but they're just, I think both of these companies and anyone else who's in this business is just emulating each other where it makes sense.
Yeah. They really want you to use the pen, right? Like everything at this event was about the pen. Everybody needs the pen. You need it to touch things and to write and to draw. I use the new haptics on the pen, and it is very cool. It does feel like you're writing on paper because of the way
that's
they
interesting.
simulated that.
Yeah,
it feels very much like paper. It really does.
Did they talk, Mary Jo? I'd have to look this up, but in the paperwork somewhere, there is actual hardware, and I know it's in Surface Pro 8, and I assume it's in Laptop Studio, that is a special hardware that interacts with this new pen specifically.
Yes.
And it combined with the haptics and the new point on the thing, they all kind of work together to make that really natural pen on paper feel. So do you remember anything about this? I can't even remember the name of it.
There's a chip in the pen, G something. I'm forgetting the name. That makes that
there
happen.
you go.
But
you're on the track. Yeah.
yeah, and then also in the operating system itself, they've done things around inking and touch in Windows 11 that makes it way easier for the pen to like register how you're using it. So they showed me when you pointed in a certain way, like the menu changed on Excel because it saw like how you were about to use the pen and it was a different way. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. That's very cool, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, what if you use Windows 10 with it? And they just had this horrified face. I'm like, okay, so
Windows 10.
right.
What's Windows 10? Oh,
Is
that's
that the one that's not 99.8% reliable? Yeah, we're not really worried about that one.
Yeah. But yeah, it is like one of those things you need to try that experience to see how it feels, because I was surprised. I was like, oh, it's going to just feel the same like any pen.
you're,
Right? No,
you're
it
making me
doesn't.
crazy. I don't want to buy this. I don't want to buy it.
Buy it and return it if you hate it.
I did that last time. It wasn't too hard. Okay.
I want to hear you.
8.
I want to hear more of
8.
Paul's
Let's talk about
opinion on 8, because I'm not a big Surface Pro fan. I don't love that form factor. I know so many people who love it. I know Thunderbolt's new, right? The cameras, the built-in cameras are better and new.
Yep.
The screen is, what do they say about the screen? Faster refresh on the screen.
Yeah, 120 hertz.
120, which is rapid.
Yeah.
That kills battery life. But Paul and I were talking this morning about whether they'd be able to, whether it would be sensing what you're doing, because you don't need it all the time. If you're typing text, you don't need 120 hertz in Notepad.
Well, yeah. I mean, ideally, what you have is an adaptive refresh rate, and I don't believe, I could be wrong, but I don't think it does that. I think it works the way external monitors work today, where you have to
you choose.
go in and tell
you
it
got a
which
choice of
refresh
60 or
rate you
20.
want,
Yeah.
Oh,
You can
who
put the
knows?
pen
Maybe
in
you're
the
on battery
keyboard.
life,
As you
and
can
it
see
automatically
right
goes
there.
down to 60.
Has a high-speed Thunderbolt 4 port.
Yeah.
Hallelujah.
There's 2 of them.
It's thinner, but not as thin as Surface Pro X.
Yeah, that's okay.
I have to say,
Yeah.
Windows 11 does look good on this. It is kind of made for Windows 11.
Yeah.
It just
To me, it's just, the screen has gone from 12.3 or 5 or whatever it was at to 13, which is a big deal. I always felt that was too small. I like the new keyboard cover with that little well for the pen, because that will charge it, and you can hide it if you want, angle the keyboard. Better battery life, modern internals, Wi-Fi 6, optional LT on both Pro and Go, which is what everyone's been asking for. Not on Laptop Studio, which is confusing. That should just be something on every device.
maybe they think it's just too heavy to carry around, and it's a desktop replacement.
I don't know. I think 4 pounds you could
It's not
carry
that heavy.
around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, this is the big one. It's not something I need or want, but it is.
It's their
most
flagship.
popular Surface.
It's their flagship.
This is the one. This is when people think Surface. This is what they think.
Yeah.
And when Pro X came out last year, or whatever that was, everybody looked at that and said, "Can we get an install one of these things?" I mean, So to me, this is a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think the display is right on this very important.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Right.
That looks great.
So it starts, Surface Pro 8 starts at 1,100. Then the keyboard is probably like 150, 160. Slim pen,
yeah, probably.
130.
Yep. Yeah, it goes up. But, these things are always on sale. I think you'll see the price go down on this too. It's good.
A lot of new hardware. I should mention that Mary Jo did return her Duo 2, and I'm kind of glad I didn't get one in the long run. But I'm hoping, I think there will be a Duo 3. I really do, and that might be the one to get. We'll continue on with more hardware from Microsoft. This is our holiday special, Windows Weekly Holiday Specials we do every year. We have compiled some of the best moments from 2021. It wasn't just Surfaces and the Duo that Microsoft announced. They also announced at the Surface event the Ocean Plastic Mouse. Watch.
I talk to PC makers all the time. There's always these briefings. For the past 2, 3, 4 years, maybe, HP, Dell, Lenovo, others are talking up their use of recycled materials. They all want to be as low impact as they can be on the environment and so forth. And every one of their devices, every single time, like HP comes out with a new Dragonfly, and then another Dragonfly, and and every time it's like, oh, we've increased our use of this and that, and it's the biggest thing in the world. There's like 117 different categories of how they're using recycled bits. I distinctly remember the first time I'd heard this, one of these companies had used some recycled ocean-bound plastics in the molding around a speaker in one laptop. And it was just something they called out, and they said, we're going to be doing more and more of this. And sure enough, that's all they talk about now. And Microsoft came out and they're like, look, we made a mouse. We're so proud of it. we're going to call it the ocean, whatever they call it, the stupid name, recycled ocean something. And it's like, guys, you got to do a little more than that. Like, here's an idea. Why don't you use ocean plastic, recycled, whatever in everything and just make it part of your whole deal? And I think they will. But, this, I think, kind of speaks to Microsoft as more of a boutique PC maker than the big players. And the fact that they felt the need to come up with a mouse that advertises, which frankly looks like a bar of soap with flavor crystals in it or something, I just find to be...
I think it makes you feel good, though. It's an interesting choice, especially because you don't normally want to put the word plastic in any product descrition.
Sure.
Here's my new plastic Volkswagen Bug. I mean, nobody wants that. But in this case, they're kind of highlighting this is made out of plastics, recovered from the ocean.
Yeah.
You're right. And unfortunately, what it really highlights is how little they do everywhere else, right? So they have this gigantic product line of beautiful new Surface devices. And I thought they were going to launch into this thing about, we're doing this across the board. And they went right into accessibility instead.
Well, I should point out, it's only 20% made out of recycled ocean plastics.
Yeah, they're killing it. I mean, they're killing it.
So even the mouse itself is 80% non-recycled plastic.
Like, we found this Clorox bottle on the beach and we turned it into a mouse. Look, I think any effort in this area is good. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, unfortunately, because it's
should be more.
One thing.
Should be more.
It just highlights that they're not doing it everywhere else.
Yeah. I feel like more and more Microsoft is playing up things they're doing around sustainability, especially, with their data centers and Azure. You hear them talk about this a lot. The carbon neutral footprint stuff they're aiming towards, right? And I think because when Satya Nadella had in his closing remarks, he talked about accessibility and sustainability a lot. Like that was kind of his theme.
Yeah, 2030, I think, was the goal to be net neutral on carbon emissions or whatever it was.
Right. So I think they believe, and I think a lot of people believe that especially younger people are very attuned to this. They want to know that the company they work for is on board with trying to fight climate change and trying to do the right thing in that area. So I feel like it was a nod to that.
I feel like they are so far behind it's not worth pointing out. They're not even in the game. So maybe they will be by 2030, and that's great. And like I said, any step in that direction is positive. I'm just saying, calling it out in such an obvious fashion by having a product, a mouse, like a mouse. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Every one of your mice can't have 20% recycled materials. That's crazy.
Maybe they will going forward.
I'm sure they will. All I'm saying is HP, Dell, Lenovo, et cetera, are doing a much better job of this. And Apple.
Yeah. Everybody has to. I mean,
how long has Apple been talking about this?
I'm always suspicious because I feel like corporations pay lip service to a lot of things. Last year, everybody had the Black Lives Matter banner, but, that was... It was more to like, don't worry about us. We got this. And then business as usual.
Don't throw a bucket of blood at our building.
Yeah, business as usual. And I feel like there's a certain amount of this going on too. But I also think it may be sincere. And in the cases where it's sincere, we should really applaud it because it's so important. And it needs to be done.
You're sucked in with the Surface Duo, and now all you're doing is defending this company.
All right, I'm going to say one thing that Microsoft did really well, and I was very moved by accessibility and adaptive products. And I don't think there's any computer company in the world that is as committed to making their stuff accessible and is very forefront about that. And you got to, I know you're, Paul, you're an evil, bitter person, but you got to.
No, thank you. Thank you for acknowledging that.
Wow.
You got to at least give him a pat on the back for that.
So I got the Bloomberry ice cream from Microsoft.
Oh, you did?
I did. So this is the Windows 11 swag giveaway thing. It's a blueberry-infused ice cream made by a really small gourmet ice cream maker here in New York called Mikey Likes It. Here's a description. Blueberry-infused ice cream ribboned with the best part of blueberry pie, blended with pound cake bites, topped with candy-colored chocolate pieces.
Disgusting. That is awful.
It's better than it sounds, but here's the real kicker.
It ain't vanilla.
You need to know.
Okay, good.
I know.
Right.
I wanted it to be chocolate for dark mode. It would have made way more sense.
Yeah.
But It embodies the fluid design of the OS and the iconic Windows 11 bloom through the blueberry compote swirls and the blue chocolate candies. I'm not making this up. They said this. Yeah.
Did you recycle any of it, or how does that work?
It's like ocean plastic. After you're done with it, you use the container as
not
like
in the ocean, Mary Jo. What are you doing?
It was tasty. Chocolate would have been better, but it was still good.
So, but that means you're a very special person. You didn't get the review unit for the Duo, but you did get the Bloomberry.
So the box this thing came in, I'm not kidding you, it was huge, and it had the Windows 11 logo on it, and inside was like a little cake of dry ice, and
it looks pretty frosty.
It was so cool.
What do you think the impact on the environment of that packaging was?
I know.
Would you say
I know,
it obviated some number of mice?
Maybe.
Mary Jo, did you get this too, Paul? No.
No, I didn't get any ice cream.
They knew he would hate it. He doesn't like sweets. He hates ice cream.
I don't like ice cream, but
he's one of these guys.
So I think it means you're in with like the influencers, Mary Jo. Look,
yes.
iJustine.
Yes.
iJustine.
Mikey likes it. Says Mikey likes it.
That's the name of the company that makes it.
That's the name of the brand.
That's how did they get that name?
You know,
Mikey
Mikey
runs the ice cream place.
Neither
guys.
you nor Justine.
Oh, is he that kid?
No,
that would
it's
be
just
not that
a
guy.
hipster joke.
Yeah.
Remember,
but that's got to be owned by, what was that? Life Cereal, I think.
Mikey, he likes it.
Do you think Mikey likes it? Like, is it registered trademark of Life Cereal?
Yeah.
All rights reserved. How about blueberry compote swirl? How about that?
Right, exactly.
Oh, frick.
Yeah. So I have hope now that I might get the Duo too. If iJustine got the ice cream and I got the ice cream, maybe I am an influencer.
Wow.
I confuse you two sometimes. So
I know. We do look a lot alike, and I have that giggle and stuff.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I'm surprised. I mean, look, I think that's pretty special. I doubt how many people got that. That's very special.
I did feel special. I had it for breakfast yesterday. It was a delight.
Wow. That was the entirety of the promotional campaign for Windows 11 is sending some influencers some ice cream.
By the way, still better than those Windows 7 parties though, right?
I know.
Yes,
I worried about that. They said to me, we want to send you a package on Windows 11 day. And I'm like, oh, no, they're not going to send me a party kit, are they?
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm impressed. You couldn't keep it till today, though, huh? Couldn't hold off.
No, there's some in the freezer.
I want to see. Go get it. Let me do an ad. And you can go get it because I want to see the blueberry compote swirls. I want to see if it does, in fact, look like Windows 11. Let's see those blueberry compote swirls. Ooh, that doesn't look like Windows 11 at all. Looks like purple ice cream.
It's purple.
Why are you eating out of
blue.
the cat's dish?
That's the human dish that the cat gives her.
I mean, the cat's going to be confused by the dish.
He has his own set of these dishes.
Oh, boy.
Okay.
It's got a little far, Mary Jo. Do we need to do an intervention?
No.
She's got the dish. It's cute, actually. I completely understand. It's all over the house. Lisa is also cat crazy. And we have cat everything, everywhere.
See?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Leah, we've seen her Instagram feed. We know.
Yeah. Yeah.
We know.
Let me put it this way. When she unlocks her phone, is there a picture of me? No. Her kid? No. It's a picture of her cat.
Yep.
So let's be honest. So, but we do like the dish, actually. I think I might like it better than the ice cream.
I know. It's not the most attractive looking ice cream, but it's pretty
purple.
tasty.
Good.
Yeah, it's very purple.
Glad it's good.
Yeah.
Not everybody tweeted the container. No one tweeted a picture of the stuff. So
I know.
We couldn't really see if it looked like Windows 11 wallpaper.
The bloom of Windows 11.
Bloom. Oh, my God.
I think it's so weird they call that wallpaper design the bloom, because that's also what they call the HoloLens thing. You know, they're like, you do the bloom gesture, right?
Microsoft's famous for reusing stuff, aren't they? They don't.
They are.
Yeah. Yeah. No name. Every name is overloaded by many times.
So I got the Surface Duo 2 last Thursday, I believe. Here it is.
And that is a white. Is that, what do you call it? Platinum?
This is Glacier. Also known
Oh
as
my
white.
goodness. Do you feel just so productive with that hinge? Doesn't it just make you
just
look more
live in
productive
another
holding it.
world.
I bet it's lappable. It's easily lappable.
Trying to show you how much the camera bump stands up.
Yeah.
Here's the camera bump. So when you fold it over, this is what it looks like with the camera bump. Gives it a little space.
It's like a
That I
bookmark in a
don't
book.
enjoy.
No, not enjoyable. But not as horrible as I thought. Also, like everyone's like, "Oh, the camera bump thing's gonna be terrible, right?" And it's not that annoying. It's got a really beautiful screen. The camera is really great. But when I reviewed the Surface Duo 1, I mean, it's not as great as like the Google cameras, but compared to the camera that was in it before, it's vastly improved. Problem with the camera is you have to hold your phone like this to take a picture, right?
Yeah, right.
You can't like take it the normal way. So it's a little cumbersome and you have to figure out how to press the camera button while you're holding the phone that way. A little weird. I hate the gestures. I'm like so hateful on the gestures. I shut off Android gestures, but they're still there. Like, I hate the gestures so much. Yeah, I don't like it. Trying to get away from the screen so I can show you the screens. But yeah, I've got to spend a lot more time with it to see if they fix the software, because when I reviewed the Duo 1, my biggest problem wasn't the hardware. The hardware is beautiful. I mean, it's awesome. And they've made the hinge even tighter. You're going to be able to display notifications, a little like kind of like glow-in-the-dark icons here, so you can see, oh, I have a notification on Twitter. I have a notification on Microsoft Mail here. So that you don't have to actually, they had that feature in the old one, peek. You had to actually open your phone. What good is that, right? But yeah, here's the screen, if you can see this.
Yeah, so you got notifications on the other screen, which is kind of neat.
Yeah.
It just turned off, unfortunately, but
I'm like, there. Yeah.
So this is still kind of like Microsoft launcher style. It's like the Microsoft, their own kind of Android or whatever.
Yeah, it is kind of like that. Again, I need to try running apps side by side. I wasn't a big believer in that making me more productive last year, but I'm going to give it a chance. I have 60 days till I have to return this, so I'm definitely going to try it out. It's a super cool device. It's really nice, but I need a reason for it. I already get I'm getting the Pixel Pro 6. It's coming Monday. Not that I'm that excited.
You have to think the Pixel Pro 6 is going to make you forget all about this thing. Yeah. This is the problem. Yeah.
I know. Yeah. I guess I like that they're experimenting still. I feel like this is truly a Generation 2 device so far from my very, very limited testing of it. And, what they always say is Microsoft doesn't make a good device till it's in the third generation. I have a feeling that's going to be true of this. But I'm still doing a wait and see. I'll give you more details as I use it more.
Clearly improved, at least.
Definitely improved over the first version. A lot of people who have review units kind of had that as their observation. It's like, hey, they really fixed a lot of things, not just the camera, but it's still not something I'd pay $1,500 for, because why?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, how are you using it? Have you put your SIM card in it? Are you trying to give it the old college try?
I'm going to. Yeah. I have a SIM in it that's not my regular SIM right now, but I need to put my own SIM in it and try to make it my, daily driver. Mm-hmm. It's just hard because I can do everything so much faster and better and more efficiently on a single screen, because that's just how that's how I use a phone, right?
Right.
It's just hard to make yourself think about, okay, dual screen, because you don't use it the same way you use like a clamshell laptop because of the size, right? But you also don't use it the same way you use a phone. So
yeah, it's some weird
the camera
in
is way
between.
better. The Grey Wolf 123 in the Discord is saying that it's so much better camera. It is. I still notice a lag in the camera, but again, I haven't tweaked all the settings. He's saying the camera's snappier. I took a really quick picture of Sriracha with it, and it was good, but like my Google Pixel 3 XL takes a better picture. And that's an old phone, right? So.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm encouraged that they've made improvements. I'm discouraged that they haven't made more improvements, but.
What things would you like to see? Like what
how about
would make
a
it
bumper
better?
that evens out that bump?
That would be nice.
So
yeah,
I have the bumper, but I don't want to attach the bumper because then I won't be able to return it. Because when you put the bumper on, it's got like sticky stuff that holds it onto the phone, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the other thing then. If you want to return it, you have to be very careful with it. So making it your daily driver would be kind of difficult.
Right.
Right.
Like I said, I'm gonna try it. I have a feeling I'm not gonna try it a lot. I just mostly wanted to see how much they had improved it.
Sure.
They have definitely improved it. It's much better than the first version. Grey Wolf saying the OS is snappier. It is. Although I hate the gestures. Despise. I hate Android gestures. The first thing I do is I make sure I never use them. Like, horrible.
Have you? Oh, really? So you mean Android? So have you upgraded to Android 12 on your Pixel 3?
No,
XL?
I have not.
You haven't, and you don't use gesture navigation.
No, I hate gestures.
Oh, Mary Jo, we gotta have a talk someday.
No, come on. Back button, home button, guys. This is how the deities meant us to use phones.
Wow. Well, unfortunately, it's kind of going this direction.
I know. I hope they let me keep turning them off because I don't like them. So at Build, I believe it was, Microsoft announced this idea of Microsoft Mesh. And Mesh is the idea of creating an environment in mixed reality where you can actually interact first in avatar form and at some point in the future, they hope in hologram form. The whole idea of holoportation so that you could teleport yourself as a hologram and be in a virtual environment and talk to people and interact with them, do demos and look at things together as if you were in the real world. Okay, so they announced that at Build. Now, at Ignite this week, they said, okay, one of the ways we're going to manifest this vision is by bringing Mesh to Teams, basically. So the way this looks is a little weird. It looks like cartoon characters with no lower half of their body, interacting in various virtual spaces that they've created to represent things like conference rooms or basically anything you want, a home, a retail store, whatever. Okay, so this is Microsoft's take on the metaverse, and we heard Facebook/Meta's take on this a week ago. The difference between that take and Microsoft's take is Microsoft's is all about the enterprise to start, right? So they even talk about the metaverse for the enterprise as a separate thing from the way Facebook talks about the metaverse, which is very
the metaprise, if you will.
Yeah, there you go. I like that term.
I will
should
not,
use
Paul.
Metaprise, right. The Starship Metaprise.
There you go, the Starship Metaprise. Oh, another good title for the show.
Okay, so at first this looks kind of ridiculous, but the idea is, especially for people who don't like to use their cameras in virtual meetings, you could be in a Teams meeting and be represented by an avatar with your expressions and gestures and just have that thing represent you in a meeting so that you don't have to be on camera all the time. Over time, they want it to be people actually interacting, together in other settings. So this is going to be a very gradually phased in thing. They're saying the preview of this is next year. It's nothing imminent for the rest of this year. I saw a lot of skepticism on Twitter about this when Microsoft was showing it, but also some excitement. Like some people saying, okay, you know what? They have this, capability now in Teams where you can all be in a coffee shop together. What do they call it again? Or you can be in a stadium.
I was just trying to think of that name. It's not better to get. What's the name of that? It looks, you could be in the classroom or in a
Yeah,
different
I'm like
type of
drawing a
settings,
mental
yeah.
blank on what they
Yeah,
call
me
it.
too.
It's sort of like a lens that you apply where it looks
I
like
think
you're
it's
all in
called
a space together.
Is it together mode?
I think it
Together
might be
mode,
called Together
right.
mode. Yeah.
It is. So Together Mode is one way that Microsoft has tried to pioneer making meetings better so that it doesn't feel so horrible like you're in a grid and you see all their people and it's just like everybody looking bored, right? This is another way they're trying to bring some new way of interacting during a meeting together.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Obviously, it's been, we got a lot to dig into. This has been a big year, needless to say, as I guess every year is, but I'm really happy to have the chance to be here. So thanks for sneaking me in for a little bit today.
Yeah, you bet.
Great. Now, we wanted you to start like you always do lately and talk about what you call hidden gems, because we always get a few of these where you're like, these are things that didn't get as much press or a notice maybe, but we think they were a big deal.
Yeah, great. I'd love to do the hidden gems. And I'm going to try to keep it as tight as I can. I'm going to do 4 hidden gems, and I'm going to time myself and try to do them in 6 minutes.
Ooh,
And I picked them very carefully because I thought they would give you things to think about and perhaps talk about. So hopefully you'll enjoy them. And of course, hopefully your listeners will enjoy them. The first one is something we've been working on for 3 years and finally reached the world. And it's not a product, but on Monday of this week, my first hidden gem is this Xbox Power On, the story of Xbox sort of docu-series.
Oh, you ruined my tip.
Oh, I did? Oh, I'm sorry, Paul.
No, it's okay.
Well, we've been funding this work for 3 years. Tina Summerford has done just a stunning job. This is like a 4.5 hour series. You can get it on YouTube or IMDb TV, Roku, Microsoft Movies.
It
and
is
TV.
fantastic, by the way.
Oh my gosh, she did the whole team did a stunning job. And the reason I pick it is because I think gamers will love it. But even if you don't love gaming, I did like how the team told a lot of the Microsoft mistakes. I mean, it does.
No, I'm really glad you said this because when I was going to use this as my tip, and what I was going to say was, Mary Jo, I know you're not into gaming, but given your knowledge of the history of Microsoft, you have to watch this documentary.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. Cool.
And just watch the first episode. And if you don't say, oh my gosh, I want to watch the rest of it,
I would be
think
shocked.
you will.
Yeah.
And the team was very clear. Hey, if we make this, we're going to tell the whole story, and we're going to, there are going to be some warts that the world sees. And so I picked that one as that's hidden gem number one.
Cool.
Okay. Should we move on to number 2?
Yeah.
Okay. Number 2, hidden gem number 2. And you're going to think I'm crazy for picking this one because it's not particularly, but it goes nicely with the Xbox One. It's not that sort of glamorous.
If you want to keep them all Xbox focused, that'd be great. So.
I got a couple in there. The second one, which is a little bit more on a serious note, is the Microsoft Store policy changes we made. Happened. A bunch of them happened this year. And before the policy changes, we published a bunch of App Store principles back in October 2020. And we invited Android and sort of iOS to embrace them. And we said Windows, of course, needs to embrace them. These are the 3 big App Store ecosystems. Yeah. And we basically published a bunch of principles around fairness and innovation and greater opportunity, economic opportunity for developers. Satya is really on a mission around economic opportunity for creators and developers. And then we updated a bunch of the way that the Microsoft Store on Windows works. And the 4 I'll just call out, developers can finally bring basically any app store they want to the store. It can be a Win32 app, a PWA, a UWP, whatever framework they want to use, they can bring it to the store. App developers can bring their own commerce into our store. And if they bring their own commerce, where they're doing the commerce through their back end, through their app, then they keep 100% of the revenue and we don't take any of that revenue. Developers can bring their own browser engines to the store. Historically, stores have locked down to the engine that ecosystem wanted, and we've opened that up. And since then, Opera, Yandex, Mozilla, they've all come to the Microsoft Store on Windows. And then finally, and probably most importantly, the third-party storefront apps, can be discoverable from within the Microsoft Store. And of course, we announced that Amazon is bringing their Android App Store to Windows 11. Into Windows 10. We're very excited about that. And Epic, of course, has brought their App Store to ours as well. So you can search, deep link into their stores, go in their stores, et cetera. And I think I think foreshadowing, publishing principles for the industry, and then us walking the talk with our own implementation to those principles. I do think that's a very powerful blueprint for us to use. We did it with stores. I think it's an important, powerful blueprint for us to use in other places, and maybe we'll see more of that in the years ahead. So hidden gem number 2, I know it's not sexy. People might be like,
I
what
disagree. That was very sexy.
Okay, great. Excellent. Great.
Yeah.
Can we ask you a question about
Yes.
the gems?
Yeah,
Okay.
of course.
What about Google? And
Yeah, so
them coming to the store. Is it like off the table or no?
Oh, no. I mean, obviously, if we say third-party store app fronts can be discoverable through the Microsoft Store, then great. Let's talk to any storefront that wants to come. I happen to notice news like, what was it, 2 days ago, Mary Jo? Recently, this week, I think, they said, hey, we're bringing an app that is going to bring games to Windows, and we were like, oh, okay. And obviously now we're gonna see what that looks like over time. But literally anybody who has that storefront, we want to talk to them about their willingness to bring it. And there'll be multiple levels of what it means to bring a store. With Amazon, we're doing deep work. So, you'll be able to search in our store and find things in their store. And there's, we're doing a lot of work on the flow. So you only have to enter your Amazon credentials once and all that stuff. So I don't think everyone will want to do the same amount of work, but it's not restricted to a particular storefront. And I think it's the only way for, these ecosystems to move forward in a healthy way. And as I said, Satya is just like economic opportunity for creators on Windows, economic opportunity for developers on Windows. And you've heard him talk a little bit about it. So that was my number 2.
Okay.
Should I go to 3?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. I think you might have hurt me a little bit on time, but I think I'm still within it.
That's not your fault. We interrupted.
We'll deduct that. We'll deduct that from the system.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Reset the clock to 2 minutes.
Add 13 seconds and to the clock.
Okay.
Starting now.
Hidden gem number 3 is accessibility with Surface and accessibility with gaming. We dedicated like 15 minutes of our Surface launch to the Surface Adaptive Kit, and we created this with this inclusive tech lab. We did it in partnership with people with disabilities, and as you guys know, there's these sort of keycap labels and bump labels and port indicators, and even this sort of device opener that we launched. And I didn't know how big a deal it would be. And our team said, this is going to be a bigger deal than you think. And I said, I'm not sure. It's like $15 of keycap labels. And of course they were right. And my lack of clarity was wrong. And it's become a big thing and an important thing. And more importantly, maybe even than the Surface Adaptive Kit, is this thing we introduced that most people actually have no idea about. We launched this thing called the Xbox Accessibility Testing Service, which is a service we provide to game developers to then partner with members of the disability community as they're building their game so that they can build a game that is more accessible out of the chute. And so for me, hidden gem number 3 is just this sort of accessibility in hardware, accessibility services for developers who want to build more accessible things. And I think that was a pleasant surprise for me. And then very few people have talked about the testing service that I think will be quite helpful for game devs. Yeah. And so I wanted to make that hidden gem number 3.
Yeah, we definitely talked about the Surface and the Adaptive Kit and the Xbox Adaptive Controller.
Yeah, that one was big.
But not the Surface. Yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm. Last one, Mary Jo. This is actually for all of you, but it's a special Mary Jo focused one. Nice. And this is, you're going to, people are going to laugh out loud, but you got to give me a minute. Hidden gem number 3 is Azure Digital Twins. And you're going to say, what are you talking about? I don't even know what you're talking about.
No, I know why. I know exactly why.
Exactly. Of course you do. Of course, which I said it would. And there's a couple of reasons why. First of all, if you don't know what the heck this is a set of services that we provide in our Azure cloud that enables, regular people to create digital models of basically anything physical. It could be a digital model of something simple, like a coffee cup, but it could be a digital model of something super complex, like an entire energy grid or a warehouse or a factory. And one of the reasons I chose it, in addition to the obvious foreshadowing to the metaverse, is the fact that one of the best customers we have that's using this is Anheuser-Busch InBev. And since you guys always talk about beer, I said, I'm going to bring this to the show because what what these folks have done is they've literally taken 200 breweries and they've created digital twins for every one of those breweries. And now their digital twins are literally a model of each of these breweries and the supply chain that feeds the brewery. And their twins are synchronized with the physical brewery. So the digital model is always live and up to date with what's happening in the physical brewery itself. And then their brewmasters, who you guys talk about sometimes, can adjust things based on these active conditions that they're seeing in the digital twin. So, I think there's a lot of discussion on the metaverse on the consumer side, which is awesome and excited to talk about that. But actually, there's a lot of companies who are sort of already creating their own, version of this using Azure Digital Twins. And I thought that was kind of a nice blend of consumer commercial. And so number 4 is the very commercial but beer-oriented Azure Digital Twins.
Nice.
AKA
Just
Microsoft.
like Mary Jo, very commercial, but beer.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Are they going to call it Microsoft Brew? Because that would be really a good name. But
Yeah. No.
Hey, I think the chat room's saying you, in your very first gem, you neglected to mention the name of the story of Xbox, Power On, the story of Xbox.
I thought he did.
Maybe the chat room just missed
It's
it.
called
but
Power On, the story of Xbox. Exactly.
Want to give that credit. You can find it everywhere, YouTube, Microsoft Movies, everywhere. That's become a yearly tradition with Chris Capicella and his hidden gems. We always love having Chris join us. That was last week for our last show of the week, I guess 2 weeks ago now, for our last show of the season. Thank you all for joining us for every episode of Windows Weekly. We really appreciate your presence. We especially thank the folks who are members of Club Twit. They pay $7 a month, but they do get some benefits, including ad-free versions of the show, access to the Discord, the special Twit Plus feed. We're very grateful to all of our club members and to all of you who listen all week long. All year long. I hope you have a wonderful holiday season. Paul, Mary Jo, and I will be back with Windows Weekly on January, I think that's the 5th, with all new content. Should be a very interesting year for Microsoft. And as you know, we've got the most insightful coverage all year long on Windows Weekly. Join us Wednesdays, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1800 or 1900 UTC, or just get the downloads at twit.tv/WW. There's a YouTube channel, and of course, subscribing is the easiest way to get any of our shows. That way you get them automatically as soon as they're available. Leave us a 5-star review. Share the wealth this holiday season. Have a great holiday season. A happy new year, and we'll see you all in 2022. Bye-bye.